there was a blog I think you had written maybe a couple years ago, and it was on standards and
Oh,
expectations.
yep.
I think that is so interesting because I've never thought of it like the way you had written in the blog. But I think,
Uh-huh.
what's funny is it seems like one, I'll ask you to like kind of touch on the differences that you had explained in the article, but
Yeah.
also it's funny how we always have standards and expectations for other people, but we never ask these things of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And reading your article kind of made me think about, myself, like, how often do I really, check myself or evaluate myself or go through and update, my own standards or expectations. So I
Mm-hmm.
just want you to kind of talk about that because I thought that was such a good article.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's funny that you bring that up because I actually was just talking to a strength and conditioning coach about that yesterday with kids in general. But I remember sitting on the bus thinking of this. We had just played a game, and I'm like, okay, where are my like consistent disappointments coming from? And I stopped for a second. I'm like, okay, I'm always saying, like, okay, I expect this or I expect that. And then I was like, okay, but some people interchange standards and expectations, right? And then I was like, those can't be the same thing. They just can't. Because, okay, yeah, like standards, I just feel like you hold yourself to them. So then I'm breaking it down to myself. So I was writing it all down and I'm like, all right, standards versus expectations, they're two different things. What are expectations? Expectations are external things, things that are you are not in control of that you hope for. I expect a great career because I put the hard work in. Well, you don't know what's going to happen. I expect my coach to play me this much because I'm getting these many shots in and I'm working hard. Well, that what your coach does is not in your control, right? But then I'm like, okay, but we do have some agency in our own story. We do have like, right? We take part in our own story, okay? So where is that? That's in our standards. Internal things that we hold ourselves to. So it's like a standard for myself. I'm going to show up and be a great teammate. I'm going to be a constant encourager and I'm going to be the one who's giving high fives. So we call it positive touches. I'm giving you a pat on the back. I'm giving you a high five. I'm encouraging you throughout practice. Those are easily standards I can hold myself to. I'm going to show up to practice early. I'm going to stretch, get my stretching in, especially like people know as like a fifth year. I'm going to get there early, stretch, and then I'm going to get some shots up before practice. Okay, I don't have class right after practice, so I'm going to get some more shots up, but I'm also going to be intentional and I'm going to ask one of my teammates to shoot with me because I want to be a better teammate. That's one of my standards. And so those are things you hold yourself to, and those are things you're always in control of. And that gives players that I've talked to that much more confidence because, right, as human beings, we hate uncertainty, but
Yeah.
it's part of everyone's story is things are ever changing and we may not know when or why they do, but if we can hold ourselves to a certain standard and write them down and every day remind yourself, okay, these are my standards and these are
Mhm.
what I'm holding myself to, right? You can't guarantee that what you expect is
Right.
going to happen, but you can guarantee if you don't hold yourself to these standards that you're never going to get anything you expect because you haven't worked for it, you haven't earned it. And so to talk about them as different things, I think opens kids' eyes. And I'm like, you can't go in expecting that, right? I always use this analogy, but you can't go in expecting the ESPN 30 for 30. Because
I love that.
there
Yeah.
are so many different situations, right? That are not within your control. And I get it. Like it allowed me to understand, well, I'm like, now I get why people say expectations often cause your greatest disappointments, right? But that doesn't mean you throw caution to the wind and then whatever happens, happens. No, you have standards. And I remember we worked with a Navy SEAL, the program, I think it was called, and Nick was great. And he said, the new standard you walk past, or the standard you walk past is the new standard you set. And that could go either way. So if someone shows up late to practice and we don't call them out or we don't have a team meeting about it, then we just allowed a new standard and it's not better than our other one. Now we're
Yeah.
allowing people to walk in late. Whereas, okay, I'm grabbing a teammate after practice and we're going to shoot. And then other people are seeing that and we reinforce that. Okay, then I've set a new standard of I'm creating a team environment where we want to work out together
Mhm.
even when it's not practice time. And they may seem like insignificant things, but right, it's like all about those 1% that you can grab.